Do you ascribe to the idea that we can have too much of a good thing? Well, if so, then you may have thought that that applies to our teachings here as well, specifically befriending wakefulness. You may have thought that this is a nice idea, but I better approach it with some moderation. Well, if so, this class is for you. We're going to look at this question in detail. Is it possible to befriend wakefulness too much? And the reason being that a client of mine asked me this just about 2 hours ago. And as I was replying, I found these kind of 3 tricky scenarios. And I also realized that this is not an uncommon question. So I want to really share it with you here. So our outline for today is going to be, firstly, an announcement. Then I'm going to give a short answer to the question. And then we're going to look at the meat of this, which is going to be like these 3 tricky scenarios and what to do. And by the way, take advantage of the timestamps if you want to jump ahead or jump back, or in any shape or form you want to use them. Take advantage of them. Finally, before we start get going here, if befriending wakefulness is that completely new to you, if you're new to the channel, then check out the This Is Natto playlist, where you can familiarize yourself with our core teachings, of which befriending wakefulness is one. Now, okay, let's get going. Number one, announcement. Over the weekend, I put the price back for the Insomnia Immunity program to $259 per month. And I really want to apologize for the back and forth and share that the path is very clear to me now. The thing is, if you look at most programs, courses, they will be like a 3-month course or a 6-month course, and the price per month will be 2 times or maybe 4 times as much as we charge for our Insomnia Immunity program. And at some point I thought maybe we should go in that direction, pointing out that many of our clients stay, between 2 or 4 months and then graduate, similarly to what they do in any other program. And you also, I think, get, if you invest in something, you may be more motivated and you might really show up to class and do your part. And so I thought at some point I thought like maybe we should move in that direction. But over the past weeks, this led to some kind of soul searching and question like, where do we really want to go? Because if you have a higher price point, then you may also need like discovery calls. You may need an enrollment coach and things of that nature, which leads to a level of complexity that I don't like. I like simplicity. And also, if you go towards more of a course or a program, and we say that, you're going to be in here for 6 weeks, or you're going to be in here for 3 months or something like that, then there automatically is a time component. There's kind of a goalpost, which in itself is quite tricky. So I think it really helps when you have a membership model where you can join at any point, you can pause, you can come back, and you have that flexibility. So yeah, I really see that is the way forward. And want to share that. I really want to share a little bit about that backstory now. And if you want more, by the way, of sort of like me talking about like my philosophy, my process, my things that make me anxious, and how I apply all the teachings here to myself, then just let me know in the comment section. I've thought about that episode for a very long time, but I didn't know how interesting it would be. But if just one person says, I want to hear more about that, Daniel, then please let me know. All right, so back to the question, is it possible to befriend wakefulness too much? This is sort of the second section for us here is the short answer, which is no. To me, is really a no. And it's similar to me as if we would ask ourselves, like, can we be too unafraid of balloons? In the context of like, we can of course have a phobia of balloons where we think they're dangerous, but they aren't. And consequently, we can wonder, like, can we become too unafraid of balloons? Well, the answer is no. And similarly, can we be too comfortable with feeling anxious? Similar question to me. And really, when something isn't dangerous at all, even if it's uncomfortable, I think that calls for a fear level of 0. And to me, that answers the question of befriending wakefulness. We cannot we cannot teach our brain, too much, that being awake is not dangerous. So that's the short answer. But again, I think the meat of this class, the real insight comes from these 3 tricky scenarios. Okay, so scenario A I call the secret reason we become a busy bee. And what I mean by this, well, when we have insomnia, when we start having insomnia, a very common response is to go to bed early, to spend a lot of hours in bed and get up late to try to get more sleep, which we're not going to talk more about. I'm just illustrating that that's a common response. But another common response, is actually sort of the opposite, to try to go to bed really late, to try to stay really busy. And what we may not see here is that this is the brain's way of trying to avoid a struggle. When the night has become like this battle, this struggle, this fight, which is naturally very uncomfortable, then the brain can be like, let's not go there. Let's try to avoid that. Let's just stay up really late. Let's keep it busy. It's sort of like trying to distract oneself, right? And the thing is that this busyness, it can sort of look like befriending wakefulness. We can think that we're befriending wakefulness, but it's actually a secret like avoidance effort. Befriending wakefulness is when we, instead of trying to make ourselves sleep or force ourselves to sleep, befriending wakefulness is doing anything we enjoy that teaches the brain that it's more acceptable to be awake. But this business is quite the opposite. It's actually a secret avoidance effort. So if you find this, like if you hear this and you're like, oh yeah, that's me, like that busy bee thing, that sounds like me, then you may wonder what to do. And here I think deploying awareness is really what helps. Uh, when a secret is revealed, the secret automatically doesn't exist. So as soon as we see this, and we find ourselves becoming like going to kind of busy bee mode in the evening, and we go like, aha, I'm starting to try to make myself busy because I'm actually trying to avoid this nightly battle. But there's actually no enemy. There's actually there's actually nothing to fight. That automatically this busy bee phenomenon fades away. So I think that is the key to scenario A there. Now, let's go to scenario B here. And I call this the secret reason that we ask the question. And the question I refer to here is of course, is it possible to befriend wakefulness too much? But there's another question here as well that is very common, and is someone who hears about befriending wakefulness and hears like, aha, it can be helpful to me to do something that I enjoy, or just relax, or do some whatever makes it more acceptable for me to be awake. And is this one, won't I become even more awake if I do something I enjoy? And if we answer that affirmatively, then we may think, aha, well then maybe it is possible to befriend wakefulness too much. Then we get sort of too much of something that isn't necessarily harmful, but something, something we don't like. And now, to really like understand this one, what we need to do is ask ourselves, what does the question reveal? What does the question, won't I become even more awake if I do something I enjoy? What does that reveal about the person asking the question? If you said, it reveals that that person is actually afraid of being awake, they're afraid of becoming more awake, then that was correct. That was spot on. So actually, what to do here is see that the question in itself, it just reveals that we're afraid of being awake, and is even more an invitation to befriend wakefulness. But there's a but here. You may be thinking, what if we actually do something that is so fun and engaging to us that we stay up the whole night, that we don't sleep at all? Which takes us to C, and I call this tricky scenario forgetting to sleep. And the thing is that it indeed is possible to be so engaged, so consumed by something, that we literally forget about time, and we find ourselves awake when it's morning. That can, of course, happen. But if that happens, if we're engaged for no other reason that we're really interested in something, our response when we find that we were up all night, we're going to be surprised. We're going to be like, oh, really? I was up all night? Maybe even sort of a bit amused. Wow, okay, that happened. And that will not lead to a cycle. That will not lead, like, the thing that leads to insomnia cycle is when we're afraid of being awake, and that fear keeps us awake, and we become and it reinforces the fear. That leads to a cycle. But if we're just up all night because we were so engaged in something, it will not lead to this cycle. But of course, it can be tricky because uh, although like forgetting to sleep because we had so much fun is completely unrelated to befriending wakefulness, they can sort of look the same on the surface, but they're really completely different. Befriending wakefulness is a way of like meeting a fear if we have one, and forgetting to sleep is just something that can happen to anyone who's interested in anything, right? But they can look kind of similar. Now, finally here, and this was my client's question. She was asking, like, should I have some type of like routine or reminder? And I think, uh, you know, it can make sense, of course, to have some type of routine when it comes to the morning side. So here's the what to do for this one. I think starting our day about the same time makes sense for most of us humans. Humans, it's just practical, and we have some routine, and we generally like that. But uh, do we really need routine? Eh, that's questionable. And I want to answer it this way. Imagine that you're so engaged in something that's so fun that you forget to eat, which also can happen. Well, what does that lead to? Well, eventually you may forget to eat lunch, and then let's say you forget to eat dinner as well. Well, then eventually, you're going to be so hungry that you're not going to forget and you're going to go like, "Oh my gosh, I forgot to eat, but now I'm feeling really hungry. Let me eat something." And the same thing happens with sleep. If we're just so engaged in something we enjoy that we forget how to sleep, forget to sleep, I should say, then eventually we get that reminder. We comes in the sense of like sleepiness, and we will sleep because even if we're interested in something, that sleep drive will be so strong that we really want to sleep, or we just sleep. Now, so I think, yeah, well, I said that starting our day at the same time, it makes sense for many of us, or other things can make sense too, like not checking our work email after 6 p.m. if that's kind of triggering to us. Sort of like common sense makes sense to us. But what is tricky, I think, is if we start trying to have routines in the evening, and this, when we hear about like forgetting to sleep, we can think like, oh, I don't want that, so I need a reminder that I have to stop doing things at a certain time in the evening. But when we start avoiding things that we enjoy, that we look forward to sort of make space for sleep or make sure we sleep, that really so easily becomes like a rule and an effort. So I think that part is really tricky. And I think it really rarely ever helps us to avoid something we enjoy, right? Now, if we want any type of routine or reminder, I think it is actually to make it a routine to remind ourselves about non-avoidance, about non-avoiding these perceived threats that we all have. So I'll conclude there. I hope that you found this really valuable. Let me know what you thought. And as always, if you're finding everything you need in our free content here to arrive where you want to be, that is amazing. That's wonderful. Let us know. But if you like some more help, support, and guidance so that you arrive where you want to be, where you're free from that monkey on the back, when you're living the life that you want to live, then do head over to our website and check out our coaching options. We look forward to seeing you on the other side, should you decide to join. All right, that was all for today. See you tomorrow. Bye-bye.